So when somebody asks you, what is it that I owe you for everything that you did for me? The best thing you can say is nothing. There is no price on what I had to give you, but you will never ever get what you got from me ever again. Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Beyond Words with me, Nejwa Zabian. I've always believed in the power of words to heal what they didn't break and to break what they had no business or right in breaking. I want to start off by thanking you for all the messages, all the comments, they call it fan mail on the app, but I don't see it that way. Just the heartfelt stories that you've been sending me in response to some of the episodes that we've been releasing, especially the one on narcissism. I got so much amazing feedback on that one. So I just wanted to thank you for that, because every time I receive something from you, not only does it remind me that I'm helping you feel seen, but it also makes me feel seen in a way. So thank you for seeing me and hearing me, and I hope that I can continue to do this for you through my words. Today's topic is one that's very close to my heart, and it's something that I experienced many times in my life, and I know that many of you experience the same thing, and it's a really painful existence to live with that pattern happening over and over in your life. And it's this: when someone loves you for what you give, not for who you are. How many times in your life did you realize in a very blindsided way that someone that you thought genuinely cared for you as you are, as a person, as a human, as their friend, as their romantic partner, as their family, you thought they loved you genuinely, but it turned out that they only loved you because of what they could gain from you? It's a different kind of betrayal to come to terms with that. A lot of the times we live in denial. We think, if I allow myself to question someone else's intentions or why they want me in their life, then that might make me a bad person. We think that because we're empaths. We think that because we've been conditioned over the years to question our own judgment. And we've been conditioned over the years to minimize our own clarity of our reality. Maybe this would have happened in your younger years when you sensed that friends of yours were bullying you. Maybe they were taking your snacks at lunch or making you feel like they're only going to befriend you if you give them something. And maybe a parent of yours or a teacher, some kind of an authority figure that you really trust will stand up for you, or you trust that they know the right thing. They tell you, it's not really that big of a deal. That's just how people are. So you learn that's just how people are. And you learn that that's okay to happen to you, that people just condition their acceptance of you on what they get out of you. So over time, you learn, if I give them my snacks at lunch, they're going to want to play with me after school. So you learn that you have to give something to get something that you need in return. You have to give something that somebody else wants from you, that they feel entitled to from you, in order for you to get something that you genuinely need: the acceptance, the inclusion, the love, the care, the consideration. And it doesn't just happen that overnight you turn from being that child to an adult who knows everything and who knows the right and logical way to be and to operate. You grow up and you grow with those beliefs that you developed from a young age. So now in your adult relationships, again, not just romantic ones, but in your adult relationships in general, you carry on the same patterns. You give something, so that you can get something in return. You think that you need to earn people's love, not through who you are, but through what you do for them. You start working harder and harder and harder to gain someone's attention, the reason I keep turning my head is you're trying to get them to turn in your direction and pay attention. You're doing, hoping that, they'll look at you and they'll see everything that you're doing, and they'll see that you're a great person and think, oh, I value you so much because you offer me so much, because you do so much for me. The whole difference between I do, therefore I deserve versus I am, therefore I deserve is a huge debate. There's so many people out there that say, just because you exist, it doesn't mean that you deserve all good things in life. And just because you exist, it doesn't mean that you are entitled, that's the word they use, to people's love or attention or affection or their trust or their loyalty, their presence. But I disagree with that. I think the fact that you exist means you deserve to be here, which means you deserve the human experience of being loved. You deserve the human experience of being considered. You deserve the human experience of being treated like you're important, you're part of something. It doesn't make you entitled to expect those things. It makes you human to expect those things. And let me tell you something. People who make you think, who do you think you are to get my attention? Who do you think you are for me to treat you differently just because you exist here? Just because you are who you are? Who do you think you are? People who talk to you like that, they might not say the words out loud, but they treat you in a way that sends you that message. Not only are they not your people, these people are going to be the destruction of you. These people are going to be the unraveling of you in a way that could be so detrimental to who you are that you might never be able to recover from that if you put yourself in that environment for long enough. We are a product not only of our childhoods and our childhood traumas and the way that we were raised and the people around us who taught us things about ourselves and about life and how life actually works. We are also a product of our current environment. If you surround yourself with books, it means you're going to be spending your time reading, learning, growing, evolving, looking at different perspectives, maybe venturing off into some fiction and becoming more creative. If you surround yourself with garbage, what are you going to be doing all the time? Picking up garbage, cleaning up garbage, cleaning yourself from that garbage, cleaning other people around you from that garbage. You're going to be smelling, and with time, you know this, you've heard this before, you stop complaining about the smell because you don't smell it anymore, because that's all you smell all the time. So what kind of environment do you want to be in? What kind of environment, metaphorically, are you surrounding yourself with? Are you surrounding yourself with love, respect, honesty, transparency? Like, close your eyes and think of the space you spend most of your time in. Is it filled with consideration for you as a human? Is it filled with thinking of what would make you feel happy and comfortable? Is it filled with thinking of the things that would help elevate you and help you grow? Or are you in an environment that's filled with disrespect, that's filled with dishonesty, that's filled with minimizing you, that's filled with diminishing who you are and what you do for yourself and for the world and for them? What kind of environment are you in? I really want you to sit down and take out a pen and paper and write down what things you're surrounded with. And if you have a hard time putting names to them, put a name to the way they make you feel. Because whatever's in your environment is making you feel a certain way. Are you feeling small? Or are you feeling big? Are you feeling like you are constricted? Like you have to crush yourself into a little tiny box in a corner where you don't make any noise and nobody really feels like you're inconvenient? Or do you feel like you're evolving and expanding and blossoms are coming out of you? You know, I know it's poetic, but that's life. And that's a great way for you to visualize it. So ask yourself, what kind of environment are you in? Because if the environment that you're in is only using you, you're not going to feel like you are evolving and growing and like you are expanding into the world, because every little thing that grows out of you or from you is being taken. It's not being honored and preserved and looked at as, oh, wow, that's amazing. It's being used. So you might be working hard to become a better person, but then you look at yourself and you say, I haven't really advanced much. I'm exhausted. I'm depleted. It's because everything that you're producing is being taken away from you. You become a better person, and the people around you just take and take and take. They take your honesty. They take your willingness to show up for them. They take your wanting to build connections as a way for them to take your energy, be in the presence of your energy just so that they could deplete it. They will take all the great things that you have to offer for the world to themselves because they feel entitled to them. And I'm going to give you a hit of reality at this point. And please don't take this as me trying to shame you. This is me trying to give you a wake-up call. You allowed them to take all of these things from you. No one can take something away from you without your consent. And I know it's really hard to hear this. It's hard for me to say it because no one wants to admit that they took part in their own suffering. No one wants to say, maybe I deserved some of the pain because I actually played into it, because I actually said yes when I could have said no. But at the time, I gave myself the excuse of, but if I don't say yes, I'm not going to have them in my life anymore. And I would rather have them in my life while they're taking and taking and taking than not have them in my life at all. And I understand that excuse. I've had that excuse many, many, many times. Our fear of loneliness puts us in situations where we look back one day and we think, wow, like I really would have been better off on my own. I wish I took the time to suffer from them walking away from me as a result of me standing up for myself than to continue to give them access to everything that I'm spending so much energy being and giving just so that I could say they stayed and it was worth it at the end. But you don't know that at the time. You're so fixated on making them stay, making them not walk away from you. And it's all so that you can push away the possibility that maybe the only reason they stayed around and the only reason they kept you around is because of what you had to offer them, not because of the great person that you are. They could see that you're a great person, but their intention isn't to love that great person. Their intention is to take from that great person. And that means nothing bad about you. You were just positioned in the perfect place for someone to look at you and say, look at this amazing person and look at all the great things they have to offer. And I need all of those great things because I either don't have them within me or I'm not willing to put in the time and energy to create those things. And here's this person who's just willing to give me them on a silver platter. I'm going to take them. I want you to keep this image of this person that I just described and how they think and how they logic their way through life. And I want you to ask yourself, could somebody who sees you that way genuinely love you? And I think you know the answer to that question. You will hear people from different cultures, from older generations, tell you things like, well, love doesn't really exist. People need people and people use people. That's just how life operates. And I caution you from listening to people like that and taking that message as a sign for you to excuse the behavior of those in your life who only take and take and take from you. Do people need people? Absolutely. But if you are always the one who's needed, and if you are always the one who's giving, and if you are always the one who's answering the call, and if you are always the one making the effort, and if you are always the one working so hard to keep that connection with that other person, that is toxic to you. You deserve to be with someone who meets your needs. You deserve to be with someone you can need. You deserve to be with someone who you know and trust that when you need them to be present, they will answer that call. They will meet you where you need to be met. And I'm not saying they need to be perfect at it, but I'm saying that they need to try. And they need to make it happen more than they don't make it happen. When you're stuck in a loop of finding that you're giving all of yourself, you're expending all of yourself, and that person is in their spot, like imagine it like this. This is where the other person is, and this is where you are, and you give. And then you get so depleted, you get more energy, and then you give again, and you get so depleted, and you try again, you put in effort. They need you, so they come a little bit closer, and you're like, oh, that's amazing. So you come even closer. Who's getting exhausted? Like, who's doing the work? If you constantly feel like the other person is just standing in their place, they're focused on their own life, and you genuinely aren't to them worth the coming close to you, trying a little bit, planning something, calling you, texting you, making plans for the future, you're always the one doing that. They only want you in their life because of this. Because they know they can get all of this from you. They are showing you through their actions or lack thereof that all you mean to them is what you give to them. And is that something that you want? And I know it's hard to look at the person that you love so much and say, you're using me. I feel used. I feel like the only value I add to your life is what I do for you. It's hard to say that. I'm not saying to say it out loud. It's hard to look yourself in the mirror and confront yourself with that truth. You would rather choose the description that says, but this is what love is. It's hard work. It's expending yourself. And if I'm going to have the mentality of, what am I getting? Then that's not how relationships work. But if you're not getting anything at all, and if the only thing that's being gotten is by the other person all the time, or 90% of the time, what are you doing? What are you getting? What is the purpose of this relationship in your life? And again, I'm going to remind you, you can think about this with family members. You can think about this with your friends. You can think about this with acquaintances that you have. You can think about this with your romantic partners. And I know most of you are thinking of your romantic partners, but what makes your environment as a whole is really important. So it's important for you to think, what are my friends like? Because if your friends offer you an environment of also constantly taking advantage of you, then you can fall into the trap of saying, well, the person I'm with is better than my friends. Like, at least they give me this. They give me their presence every once in a while. They give me their attention every once in a while. They stayed. They come home to me every single day, whereas my friends use me all the time. You can fall into that trap. So don't just focus on making sure that your boyfriend or your husband or your girlfriend or your wife, or however you want to describe the person that you're with, don't just focus on whether that person is using you or whether they're adding to your life. Think of all the other people you surround yourself with. Because if you want to live an authentic life, then that authenticity needs to be welcomed into every single aspect of your life. Sure, you can say work isn't part of that. And if that's something that you choose, that's completely fine. If you see work as just work, this is the way I make a living, I'm not going to think about what the environment is like, I can block it out, it doesn't really affect me, I'm sure you can do that. But in relationships where your feelings are involved, where your self-worth is involved, where your happiness, where your joy, where your feelings of respect and worthiness and belonging and connection are involved, you have to make sure that you look at every single one of those connections and say, is this connection using me? Or is it adding to my life? Is it honoring me? Is it respecting me? Is this connection only loving me for what I have to offer? Or is it loving me for who I am as a person? Really reflect on those questions. I'm not just saying them. I need you to, that piece of paper that you took out, or I asked you to write down what your environment feels like, write those questions down and try to answer them to your best ability. And if you don't have the words, feel it. Because when you feel it, you know that there's been something inside of you for a long time that's been having this feeling. And when you take the time to let the feeling inside of you be felt, then you are giving yourself some of what you've been giving to everybody else. You've been giving yourself some of that love and care and listening, like really listening. Like, it's like you're sitting with yourself and you're having tea. And I've used this analogy before. I've been doing this for years. Have tea with your pain. Sit down with your feelings and have tea with them. Have a conversation with them. Welcome them in. They've been waiting at your door for you to just acknowledge that they exist. Let them in. That's how you take away from the negative power that they have over you. And it's not that they want to be negative, it's that they want to be seen by you because they're there. They want you to give them a chance to be heard. And what happens when you finally have a conversation with your feeling and where it's coming from and why it's so scared and why it's wanting to live in the dark and why it's feeling like it's expelled by you or exiled by you because you don't want to listen to it. What's more powerful than having that conversation instead of constantly saying, I'm above my pain. I'm going to keep pushing it down. I'm all the way up here and I'm not coming down to that pain because if I do, then I'm going to suffer. And sometimes your best freedom and your best liberation happens when you come down to that pain and you let it let you suffer. Because once you allow that suffering to happen, you will never, ever take your feelings for granted again. You will never say to yourself, you know what, it's okay if I meet somebody who uses me again because I don't really I don't let people get to me anymore. You're very likely to continue to fall down the same patterns if you don't come down to that pain and let you suffer. Because once you suffer, you make the right decisions for yourself and you say, I know what it feels like to suffer from that. And I know what I need to do to never let myself suffer that way again. Sometimes your answer is in feeling, not in pushing it down and saying, I'm too old for that, or I'm too mature for that, or I don't have time to feel my feelings. I just move on quickly. Think of the people in your life who move on quickly. Better yet, think of a person you were with who moved on very quickly. And what do you have to say about them? I'm sure you would say, well, they didn't take the time to actually feel what they went through. They didn't grow. There was no way that they had the time to grow from the time that we were no longer together to the time that they moved on to somebody else. They're going to spill the same pain on the other person that they spilled on me. You say that about others, but what about yourself? It is not a badge of honor to be able to move on quickly. Listen to that again. It is not a badge of honor to be able to move on quickly. The badge of honor is, what did you do after whatever it is that ended to be a better person for yourself and for those around you? What did you do in that time to learn about what you will never accept again? What did you do during that time to actually take the time to care for yourself in a way that shows you that you can live without the other person? In a way that shows you that being alone doesn't necessarily mean that something is off with you or something is wrong with you. What did you do during that time to teach yourself that sometimes being alone is the thing you need? Because it's what's going to teach you the difference between being in the presence of people who genuinely see you and genuinely reflect yourself back to you, versus being in environments where people just say, oh, you're fine here. You're welcome. Yeah, of course. But without really taking the time to get to know you and without really taking the time to make you feel welcomed. There's a difference between someone accepting you in their presence and, being okay with you being around versus someone feeling so honored to have you in their presence. And how will you know the difference if you continue to allow people who look at you as, if you have something to offer me, I'll spend time with you, but if you don't, then we're done. If you're always putting yourself in environments like that because you're so afraid of being alone, that's what you're going to think is the norm, and that's what you're going to settle for. But when you take the time after something ends to figure out what it is that got you to that end and what are the red flags that you ignored along the way, and what are maybe the yellow flags that you ignored along the way, and what are the green flags that you saw in other people that you thought were red flags because your definition of safety now as an adult is so blurred by what safety felt like when you were younger. If safety felt like constantly wondering whether you were going to be seen as a child, then when you have somebody in your adult years see you all the time, you're not going to see that as a green flag. You're going to see it as, that's too much. Because little you didn't think you deserved that. Older you is not going to think that you deserve that. Little you never thought that that was possible. So adult you is going to say, that's too good to be true. Take the time after things end with someone to ask yourself about all the times that you could have said no to being taken advantage of, but you said yes out of fear that they would walk away from you. Take the time to remind yourself that just because someone took and took and took from you, and just because over the years or months or however long you were with them, you allowed them to take and take and take, and you actually put in more effort to create things for them to take because you thought that the more you did, the more they would love you or the more they would see your value. Think about all of those things. And instead of saying, I'm so dumb, how could I have done that to myself? Remind yourself that the fact that you were able to create all of that and give it to somebody else because you loved them so much means that you could create all of that again and give that back to the one person who actually deserves it and has been aching for it. And that's yourself. Don't take somebody's using you and taking advantage of you as a further reason to hate yourself. There is never a reason to hate yourself. If anything, it's a further reason for you to love yourself and to answer your own call and to answer your own needs and to come back to being present with yourself. And if you could so easily do it for somebody else to earn their love, you could so easily do it for yourself to remind yourself that you deserve all of that for yourself. Someone using you in the name of love is not something that makes them better or more powerful. It means they're weak and they haven't come in touch with who they are and with their reality. And if they are so willing to do that to you, trust me, the way they abandon themselves is a lot worse than you can ever imagine. They are not willing to go inwards to try to see what it is that they can create for themselves because they are sitting on a mountain of shame that they're not willing to dive into. That's why it's so hard for them to take the time to take accountability when they do you wrong. That's why it's so hard for them to acknowledge that they did use you or take advantage of you. Because for them to get to that point, they need to get through that mountain of shame. You've heard me talk about this before. And they will choose to not fix themselves. Not because you don't mean enough to them, but because they themselves don't mean that much to themselves. They can't take you and what you have to offer and who you are as a person seriously when they don't take themselves seriously. And maybe it's not that they can't take themselves seriously. Maybe they're just not willing to. But what's the difference? Because the impact on you is the same. If you've been used before, if you are being currently used, remember that everything that you're giving, you have the choice right now to say, I'm going to start giving some of that back to myself, even if it's 1% a day. And tomorrow it's going to be 2%. And the day after it's going to be 3%. I'm going to take a little tiny bit of what I'm offering everybody else around me and give it back to myself. And with time, you'll start giving all of that back to yourself. And you'll realize that if those people don't get a hint that you are waking up to your worth and that maybe they need to actually start working on themselves so that they could be a better person for themselves and you'll realize with time that you see their pain, but you're no longer willing to be the one that takes it away. And you're no longer willing to be the one to put yourself in pain so that they could feel better. Because all you're giving them by doing that is an excuse to not heal, because you're giving them the medicine that they need that will get them to the next day. But sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is to let them create their own medicine and to no longer be their savior, to no longer be the one that's always there to pick them up when they fall. I'm so excited right now to announce 2 new segments that we will be doing every single week. The first one is called Words That Found Me, and the second one is called Words From Me to You. So in Words That Found Me, I will find song lyrics or poems or quotes, proverbs, whatever, that have moved me in some way that I think will help you heal in some way. And in the second segment, I will share words that I've written before, and I'll tell you which book they're from so that if you have the book, you can bookmark it and say, this means something new to me. So for the first segment, Words That Found Me, I want to read to you a poem that was turned into a song by a Lebanese figure, and his name is Ziad Rahbani. And for those of you who are Lebanese or Arabs, you'll know that he recently passed away, so may his soul rest in peace. But this song, just even if you don't understand Arabic and you listen to it, there's something about the feeling to it that will move you in some way. So the title of this song is Bala Wala Shi, which means without anything else. Without anything else, I love you. And there is no money in this love. And it's impossible for lands or any jewelry to exist here. Come, let's sit in the shade. This shade belongs to nobody. Love me and think a little. Without anything else, just you. Without your clothes or decorations, without friends, yours or mine, without all the annoying chatter or gossip, without mascara or the drama women weave. Come, let's sit in the shade. This shade is for no one. Love me and think a little without anything else. When I think of these words, they remind me that love for you should be love for your soul. It shouldn't be for anything that covers you or decorates you or tries to show you in a better light. Love should be for you, for your heart, for who you are, for the way that you see the world, for the way that you add to the world. When you find that you have to decorate yourself with not just physical things, but trying to pretend that you're someone you're not just for someone to love you, that's not love. And I know it's hard in the age of people telling you, love doesn't exist. Just use people for what they have to give you, and because you're always going to end up being hurt if you're a real person and if you really put your heart into things. That's coming out of fear and pain. And you don't want to live out of fear or pain. You want to live out of authenticity. And you believe that any love that you give that goes unrequited or that goes unseen or unvalued is still love. You're giving somebody a diamond and they're saying to you, I don't see the value in this diamond. You say to yourself, but I see the value in it. That's it. Your love doesn't ever go to waste. You might think it does, but it never does. I hope these words moved you in the same way that they moved me. And I'll put a link to the song. Listen to it in Arabic. It's just so much more beautiful and poetic. The next segment is Words from Me to You. And I'm going to read to you a poem from my second book, The Nectar of Pain. And this one, I don't even know when I wrote it or how these words came to me. And you might think, that's so simple. But there's a really deep message in there, I promise you. Let me get it. This is page 88 in The Nectar of Pain. I told you that I was in pain, and when you asked me why, I told you that you took so much from me. I gave you love, I gave you time, I believed in you, but you turned out to be the biggest disappointment of my life. You asked me what you owed me, and I told you nothing that you could give me back. Sit with these words. Sometimes people think that your love has a price on it, that they could somehow throw it in your face and say, well, what is it that you did for me? I'll give it back to you. People like that don't know the real meaning of love, and they never deserved anything that you had to offer them. But that doesn't mean you were stupid or dumb for giving it. It just means that you learned with time that those who can actually put physical value on what you had to offer them, they're just not your people. They're not people that you ever want to give that love that you have to. Sometimes people take things away from us that they could never give us back. And sometimes people break things inside of us that could never be the same way that they were before. And sometimes people rob us from certain things and experiences and life moments that we can never get back, because you can't go back in time. And you can't put together a glass that shattered everywhere without hurting yourself and without bleeding. So when somebody asks you, what is it that I owe you for everything that you did for me? The best thing you can say is nothing. There is no price on what I had to give you. But you will never, ever get what you got from me ever again. I hope these words moved you, and I hope this episode moved you. If there's any part of it that you feel will help somebody else, please share it with them. Please subscribe. Take the time to leave a rating and a review. So far, you guys have been doing so amazing with that. Like, before I even started asking, and I'm just so grateful. Let people in the world know that this is a podcast worth listening to. With so much love from me, I hope that this episode inspired you to find healing beyond words. And until next time, have a lovely day.